I think Gervonta Davis has a decent chance to beat Devin Haney and definitively call himself the best lightweight in the world. Last weekend, at the time of this recording, Gervonta Davis beat down and finished Hector Luis Garcia. At the end of the 8th round, after a series of crushing left hands, Hector Luis Garcia claimed that he lost vision in his right eye and retired in his corner going into the 9th round. With this tune-up out of the way, we can hopefully see Gervonta Davis finally fight Ryan Garcia in the fight we've always wanted sometime in April. But in this video, I won't be talking about Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia because I've already talked about this fight previously in 2 videos, both of which describe how one would beat the other. Instead, in this video, I want to look on ahead for Gervonta Davis. How will he be able to make the leap and beat Devin Haney, who is the current majority belt holder in the lightweight division and in many eyes is the best lightweight in the division? I posted this hypothetical fight on my community poll, and to my surprise, a whopping almost 70% of you guys said that Gervonta Davis would win in a hypothetical fight against Devin Haney. Now, I couldn't find any unofficial odds, but I would imagine that Devin Haney would be the favorite in this fight. I think a majority of boxing experts or more hardcore boxing fans think that Devin Haney would probably and easily outbox Gervonta Davis with little to no hiccups. I personally also think this would be the outcome of a Devin Haney versus Gervonta Davis fight, and if I were to make the odds, I would probably give Devin Haney a -225 favorite or a 70% chance to win. Basically the exact opposite of the results of the poll. But if you haven't seen these types of videos, this is where we explore ways in which the underdog would win. And in this case, Gervonta Davis, in my opinion, still has a decent chance to win. And so in this video, let's see how he can specifically pull off this upset. The first thing Gervonta Davis needs to do is not start slow. The one big criticism that Gervonta Davis received in his Hector Luis Garcia fight and many of his other previous most recent fights is his tendency to start off very slow and take off these rounds to try to find an opening. And though Gervonta Davis was able to find those openings in his last 3 fights in which he started off very slow, he definitely cannot get away with this with Devin Haney, as he is a much higher quality opponent and he tends to have very fast starts. Typically, Devin Haney looks to immediately outland his opponents, especially in the early rounds. And so for Gervonta Davis, he cannot take off these early 3 or 5 rounds, and he needs to find those openings quick, or he's going to risk Devin Haney building up his momentum. See, starting off slow and taking off rounds to find those perfect openings can end in one of 2 ways. Canelo versus Caleb Plant, in which Canelo was able to find that big left hook to knock out and finish Caleb Plant, or it can end like Canelo versus Dimitri Bivol, in which Canelo could not find that opening and Bivol continued to find that momentum and outbox Canelo to get him in a unanimous decision by the end of the 12 rounds. Now that we've established that Gervonta Davis should probably ditch the game plan of starting off slow and finding an opening, what specifically should he be doing in these early rounds and in the fight in general? Well, this next one is pretty obvious, but he should definitely close the distance and try to make this more of an inside fight. Gervonta Davis needs to take away Devin Haney's best tool, which is his amazing jab and in general his ability to control distance. We saw Devin Haney's beautiful display of utilizing the jab and controlling distance in his second fight against George Kambosos, especially in the first round. So to avoid a George Kambosos situation, Gervonta Davis has to come out the gate immediately pressuring Devin Haney and fighting on the inside. And when he does get into the inside, this is where his opportunities are presented. One of the holes in Devin Haney's game is his ability to fight toe-to-toe in the inside, and this was shown in his fight against Jorge Linares. A lot of Devin Haney haters love to point out this moment in which Jorge Linares was able to catch Devin Haney at the end of one of their latter rounds with a huge right hand that left Devin Haney on shaky legs walking back to his corner. So for Tank, he needs to open up these opportunities and keep Devin Haney within close distance. Other than keeping Devin Haney in the inside, Gervonta Davis also has to set up that left hook to the head. Now, I think a lot of people point to Jorge Linares' moment that I mentioned previously as one of the few moments in which Devin Haney was caught clean, but I would argue that Jojo Diaz more frequently landed clean shots. Jojo Diaz's few but really big moments in his fight against Devin Haney included his big left hands that came out of the southpaw stance that were able to be placed around Devin Haney's right hand. I think this is the key punch for Gervonta Davis to land against Devin Haney, and he needs to set up this punch early. I think the setup to this punch is going to be very similar to the setup in the aforementioned Canelo versus Caleb Plant fight. In this fight, Canelo conditioned Caleb Plant to expect the left hook to go to the body, so when in the latter rounds Canelo went to the head, he was able to land that left hook despite Caleb Plant having his guard up in the Philly shell. So if Gervonta Davis establishes his left hook going to the body early, I think he'll eventually get the opportunity to switch up the direction of his left hand and land a big clean shot on Devin Haney's head. And the last tactic, though maybe not realistic or something to depend on, is something I still wanted to mention. See, Devin's path to victory is definitely to stay on the outside and stick comfortably with his game plan, which is to utilize his jab, outbox and outland Gervonta Davis, and coast comfortably to probably a unanimous decision. But if Gervonta Davis can somehow get Devin Haney to deviate from this plan and fight him toe-to-toe, I think this is another way in which he can get those opportunities in the inside. Somehow, Gervonta Davis has to bait Devin Haney out of his game plan and into more of a brawl, and I do think there's legitimate mental games and tactics that Gervonta Davis can use to get him to step out of his game plan. The two have had a history with each other, and one could say that they are kind of beefing. Gervonta Davis in multiple interviews has said that in sparring matches between the two, he's always gotten the better of Devin Haney and has almost knocked him out as well. Obviously, Devin Haney has fired back, saying that these claims are false and that he's gotten the better of Gervonta Davis. But whatever the case may be, Gervonta Davis has also called out Devin Haney as more of a no-name fighter and somebody who doesn't bring excitement to his fights, and there's a general sentiment around boxing fans that Devin Haney, as good as he isn't necessarily an exciting fighter or a fighter most casual fans want to see. So if Gervonta Davis can somehow tap into this and get Devin Haney to think that he has to somehow prove to Gervonta Davis and the fans that he is an exciting fighter and he can stand toe-to-toe, I think this might be to Devin Haney's detriment and will open up opportunities for Gervonta Davis to land in a brawl or some type of inside fight. Again, this tactic is probably not something that Gervonta Davis should rely on, but there has been legitimate fights in which mental warfare and getting into somebody's head has been a serious difference maker in the fight. But with that, I think this concludes Gervonta Davis's game plan against Devin Haney. And though I'd probably favor Devin Haney in a fight against Gervonta Davis, you can never underestimate Gervonta Davis and his criminally underrated fight IQ. Gervonta Davis is much more than a power puncher, and I do think he possesses the tools outside of just power alone to beat a Devin Haney. And if Gervonta Davis does use those tools correctly to find an opening for his big left hand, I don't think Devin Haney has the chin to match that type of power. But what do you guys think? If Gervonta Davis were to fight Devin Haney, who do you think would come out on top? Does Gervonta Davis find that big left hand, or does Devin Haney coast to a unanimous decision? But again, like always, thank you guys for the support on my most recent videos and all of my videos. In fact, I plan to, again, make more videos consistently, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy them. Thanks and peace.